Okay. If you're curious about how you would have done this on the Palmetto, there are these slides, and let me just walk you through what you would have done on the Palmetto.
Is that from the page?
No, actually, unfortunately, it's not there, but I can email all of you this set of slides. Okay, so far we've been doing this. We've been SSHing into Globus ID at login.osgconnect.net. On the Palmetto, you'll do things a little differently. You'll SSH into the Palmetto login node as usual, and then you'll source this special connect client software, just like you source other scripts. Once you've sourced this script, you can add the connect client module. All of you are familiar with adding modules, and when you source this script, you get access to this special module called connect client. And then you'll just run connect setup followed by your Globus ID, and then there's a script here that you can use to test your connection. The software that will be available to you via the OSG is different from the software that will be available to you via the Palmetto. And you can see what software is there by typing in module avail, and the software will be slightly different. Some of you might actually find some useful software there. And that's about it. From there, you can still create tutorial files as templates. You can create your project from scratch. You can basically run jobs from anywhere on the Palmetto. You can create these directories in your home directory. And when you submit your job using connect submit, what happens is all your input files, all your executables are now transparently submitted to an OSG compute server somewhere. So instead of doing work from the OSG login node, you'll do work from the Palmetto login node. And the only thing you'll have to do differently is use these connect commands instead of using the condor commands. Does that make sense? Okay. So there's an outline of what kind of connect commands you have here. Let's go back here. Let me see if the Palmetto is open at all. Okay, I'll just talk about one more thing before we talk about. Well, let's just go ahead and talk about public and stash. So, like I mentioned, there are three locations really in the OSG world that you need to know about. Your home directory, where there is no limit on how much data you can store here, but it's recommended that you don't exceed over 10 gigabytes. Just be nice to the OSG, and the OSG will be nice to you. There are two other locations, public and stash. So stash is a high performance shared file system where you should be running your jobs from. Okay, don't run jobs from the home directory as we've been doing so far, but do them from stash, which functions a lot like the scratch directories. And I'll show you how you can submit jobs that stage files onto stash instead of transferring them every time. And so stash is basically a place for you to run jobs and a place for you to stage any files that your jobs use. Another place is public, where any data that you put up here is visible to the entire world. So if you want to share data with someone else conveniently, maybe it's data that you've generated from your simulations and you want to download it or you want to share it with someone, you can put them in public and you can access them using browser or wget, whatever tool that you use to download stuff. So let's see, public. I think that they're actually the same thing. Let me see. I think so. Yeah, they are actually the same thing. because I have the same file on both places. And I know that you can actually access, I forget the link. Let's see. Stash.osgconnect.net. Is that it? Right. So there it is. So stash.osgconnect.net/plus your username actually just brings up all the data that you have here, and it's publicly visible. So if you want someone to be able to download your data, just put it in public, and they can actually just go here, right click, and save your data, so they can download it. Or they can use tools like wget, etc. to download them. All right. So let's go back to our tutorials. Tutorial connect line and 0 to large job with large data. So here we've got pretty much the same thing, except now we've got this with blast.wrapper, which loads the blast version available in the OSG. Instead of packaging blast with your job, you can actually use the blast available there, and it does exactly the same thing. But you notice that this job doesn't have the input data along with it. So where's that input data coming from? You can see in the submit script where the data is coming from. And in this case, we still have the transfer input files, but they're coming from the stash directory. So in your stash directory, you can create a directory called blast and put all of these files there. And you can put files in stash in many ways. You can use SCP, as you're familiar with, to put the files there. Or you can use tools like Globus, which I don't know if anyone has heard of Globus here. So okay, let's go ahead and look at what Globus is. So Globus is basically a very convenient and fast way for you to transfer files between 2 points. And these 2 points are called Globus endpoints. And so as part of these slides, and I wish we could walk through these, but we can't because the Palmetto is done. What you can do is you can transfer files from the Palmetto, for example, to stash. And you can use this tool called Globus to do that. As long as these 2 points are defined as Globus endpoints, you can transfer data between them really efficiently. And you can even make your own personal laptop a Globus endpoint. All you have to do is get on the Globus website and download the Globus client, and you get an ID for your endpoint. And so there are steps here that show you how you can transfer data from the Palmetto to the OSG, for example. So any data that you have living around on the Palmetto can be transferred to the stash directory on the OSG, so that jobs like this can run. Jobs that refer to the stash directory. Right. And when you do that, the transfer input files will actually download the large data into stash using HTTP. And there is no data that lives locally. All right. Any questions on how stash might work? And I'm really sorry that we can't show you today, but I'm confident that you can use the slides to do it yourself. All right. Okay, so we've hit 1.5 hours, which I think is probably as long as I thought this workshop would take without access to the Palmetto. So if you want to go ahead and try one of the tutorials right now, you're free to do